But Sandler, when I was making Gems, and spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't seen it, he dies at the end of the movie. And the entire film for me was watching somebody who's so alive all the time and knowing that he dies. I would well up and cry throughout the movie.
Right.
And he was like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "I know I have issues." But I really would.
It's so funny that
I really would.
You had the power to keep him alive.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I could have. No, he had to die.
No, winged
not only that, but you essentially killed him.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. And then
I'm all broken up. Why? I'm gonna murder you soon. Oh, it just breaks my heart.
But he is also
thinking about who this movie has to be for. I know that you and your brother, when you were thinking about
Sandler.
Uncut Gems, it had to be Sandler. And it had to be Sandler to the degree that you wrote it for Sandler in 2011. He passes. He passes again in 2015.
Sandy passed a bunch. That's what
Sandy Wernick. Sandy Wernick. Yeah. Sandy Wernick, his long time, and I love you, Sandy.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But Sandy Wernick just kept getting this goofy script, and I think not even showing it to Adam.
Definitely not. No.
But then finally, you guys kept at it. You didn't cast anybody else. In 2017, you get Adam to say yes. And I think it has been such a wonderful thing for Adam, because after that movie, I mean, those of us who know Adam saw that he was a real dramatic actor long before Uncut Gems, but you guys put him dead center in the crosshairs and gave him this acting challenge, and he killed it.
Yeah,
and that is you guys, that's Adam. But I know that whole process of doing Uncut Gems took you 10 years?
10 years, yeah, 10 years.
Unbelievable.
This one was 6.
Yeah.
My wife's like, "You got to figure it out." But Sandler, when I was making Gems, and, spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't seen it, he dies at the end of the movie. And the entire film for me was watching somebody who's so alive all the time and knowing that he dies. I would well up and cry throughout the movie. Right. And he was like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "I know I have issues." But I really would.
It's so funny that
I really would.
You had the power to keep him alive.
I know. I could have. No, he had to die.
No, not only that, but you essentially killed him.
Yeah.
I know. It's weird. And then
I'm all broken up. Why? I'm gonna murder you soon. Oh, it just breaks my heart.
But he is also the best. Yeah. He's also so, like, to me, that he is that, like, alive, electric character who is, like, constantly looking to just disappear at any moment, just connect with somebody. And he's anxious. He's a very anxious person. His early stand-up where he's pretending to be things in the refrigerator. You know what I mean? His humor is very unique. I grew up loving those albums so much. Of course, so much. To the point when I'm meeting people who appear on the albums, I'm like starstruck. And so I, felt like I knew him on some level. So when I wrote it for him, I also knew that he has this rage in him, which he does. Yes, that's real. That's not, it's obviously those who know him, he can have an outburst, but they're loving. And immediately he can go back to being mushy tushy. But he's still Sandler, and he's the Sandman. How many people do you know in your life you can just call them that? Like their nickname.
Well, I know like 6.
I did write it for Timmy. I did. I wrote it for him. I met him before I really knew him as an actor. Right. And this kid that I met, I was at a premiere for one of our movies. Agent comes up to me, agent's at a party, and they're like, "Oh, I want to introduce you to the next superstar." It's pretty obnoxious. You hear that all the time. Everyone's the next superstar. So I'm skeptical, and I go and I meet this kid, and he's in the corner of the room, and he's with his buddy. And he was there, but he wasn't like there. He wasn't where he wanted to be. And he was like, he couldn't stand still. He was like coming out of his own skin, and he had these really big dreaming eyes. Yeah. And then I went to go see a movie. I Call Me by Your Name like 4 months later. And that movie could have been like kind of a small film, and he just, through his acting, through his performance, expanded the walls of this movie, made it a huge movie. And I watched him on stage afterwards. He just turns in this like super serious star forming performance. And then he's being interviewed at the New York Film Festival, 1,200 people, and he's rocking back on his chair, which I do all the time, uncontrollably. And he fell. He fell down on his ass, onto his back. Could have been very embarrassing, but every single person in that room laughed, and we laughed like we were his guest. Yeah. And that was so, like, because we felt so intimate to him. So I wrote it when I said to him, I was like, I want that person to be this part.
Well, so it's interesting to me, to the center of the movie, Timothée is, he's spectacular. And also, this is something he did last year in the Dylan, is that he went off and learned how to play guitar in a very specific way that mimicked how Dylan was playing guitar in those early Village years, and got it down just right, which is no easy thing to do.
No.
Then,
No, not at all.
Then for Marty Supreme.
I mean, if there's any voice you want to emulate, Dylan's probably the easiest.
Yeah. Maria Callas, not so much. I lost that part. I don't know why. But when you get to Timothée playing table tennis, he's so convincing. And I found out later on that, you can do things, I guess, with CGI or whatever, but he really spent a long time getting great at this. Yeah. And I started to realize he's built like a table tennis guy.
Absolutely.
He's so wiry and kinetic, and he's got so much energy that it's the perfect sport for him to play. I don't know if that went into...
I think he would like to imagine that he could be an NBA basketball player, but sure, table tennis. No,
don't tell him I said that.
No.
Tell him I said, one of Lakers.
One of the first, the inspirations for the movie was this character that my wife, who's a producer on the movie, got this book that was an autobiography memoir about this wiry kind of... There was a bunch of these intense outsiders who hung out at this table tennis parlor, Midtown, New York. A footnote of history was interesting. It was owned by the first black business owner in the Times Square district. That's who, his name is Herwald Lawrence, and that's who George Gervin plays. But at this place, which my great uncle played at, he said there was like an orphanage for outcasts. And they were all these wiry kind of proto-ADD, super smart people who got terrible grades because they just did not care for school. Astrophysicists and criminals, motley crew. And I was like, immediately when I was reading, I was like, I want to know what these guys looked like. And I typed in like 1949 British Open. And I immediately see these guys, these young guys, wiry, bouncing all over the place. And I immediately called Timmy and I was like, this is the project we can do together.
Yeah.
And I said it weirdly, I don't know why I was like so fearful of the idea of period. So I put it to Peter Gabriel, and I have the touch, that feeling. The time I like is the rush hour because I like the touch, the rush. And that was the beginning of it. And I just thought, I was like, if there's any sport, this would be perfect for Timmy. And he spent like 7 years. I remember he played me early on. 6 years. 6 years. Yeah, because he was doing it in tandem with Dylan. And I remember he played me and my wife, we went to see him. He was just starting to learn guitar. He didn't know how to play guitar when he started doing Dylan at all. And he's like, oh, I want to play you a Dylan song. And I wish I could remember the song. I remember him playing and me looking at my wife, and I was like, it's gonna be a rough one. It was like, he was like, well, that was good, right? I was like, you're amazing, man. That was something. And I meant it.
One
it was
answer to that question. Yeah.
That was something.
But that's what people said to Dylan originally.
But then I watched him like over the years in tandem with table tennis, and he started training with this guy who was like the youngest U.S. champion, this guy Michael Landers, who was on a Wheaties box at one point. Maybe it was not Wheaties, but it was another cereal brand. Anyway, I watched him train, and he got the mechanics good. And then by the time I linked him with this husband-wife team, Diego Scoff and his wife Wei Wang, she was an Olympian, who he did, because I read that he did Forrest Gump. And I was like, I need whoever did Forrest Gump. I loved as a kid. I loved that section, which is inspired by an amazing true story in the 70s.
Again, what adds to it is that Timothée's, Marty's desperation, and so much of drama, cinema, however you want to categorize it, is about someone desperately wanting something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's true in Gems, it's true here, desperately wanting to be the best and show everybody.
Yeah.
Actually, probably knows I am the best, and I need to show everybody I'm the best, and I will do anything.
Yeah. I love the Guinness Book of World Records. I've always loved it.
I was fascinated with that when I was a kid.
Because it's amazing. Because you'd be like, wow, this guy's the best at this thing. He can hold his breath for 3.5 minutes while like balancing a ball on his head.
Yeah.
There's something really beautiful about the desire to have a place in the sun, basically. And everybody, and then dreams in particular are fascinating to me because and I told the story kind of like a heist film. But it's like dreams as heists. You're like trying to control your own fate. And I think that kind of adds to the level of suspense. It's like you're watching somebody, his dream is totally ridiculous to 99.9% of the people he meets. And every moment that people do not buy into his dream and every moment he fails is approbation to them. So it's like every time he gets set back in the movie, I think what I like to hear is people really feel that, and it adds a level of tension to it. But it's about a guy who really just wants to be the greatest table tennis player, which doesn't really get him.
There's a lot of things about Marty, Timmy's character, that's unlikable. Very brash, very rude, cutting corners left and right, throwing people under the bus if he has to. And yet there's not a person watching that movie who isn't rooting for him.
Yeah.
And I find that to be really fascinating. And that's the sleight of hand that I think is really magical about, you know.
Well, you have to give somebody, I think love is more important than likability. And I believe that those moments that you are connecting with him are kind of pure.
Yeah.
And they are, because they're pure, they have a feeling of love attached to them. Like liking is more of a casual thing. And look, you know, I think that he's out chasing happiness, desperately chasing happiness, and happiness is a very fleeting kind of haunted feeling. Happiness is kind of sad in a way because it's so hard to achieve.
It's trying to grab smoke.
Exactly. And I think that there is something sympathetic to it, but I think his youth, I think when you're young, the concept of consequences, it's so small because the world is so big, and because it's so big, there's so many different options. Well, that didn't work, I can go over here.
Yeah.
And I think that youth is also kind of a little bit of, the movie's kind of about being an idiot in your 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God. And also